When we spoke with George Bovell, he was approaching his 85th birthday. And although he was in the 5th year of his stroke that limited his movements, his mind appeared to be as sharp as it must have been when he sat on the independent benches in the Senate in the 70s. Nor did he seem to have lost the determination for which he was noted in and out of the Senate, whether it involved making a case for agricultural development, pursuing a successful farming business, or looking after the interests of his many prize-winning racehorses. George Bovell was resolute. Belying his physical challenges, he still swims every afternoon in this pool located among the 100 acres of botanical splendor that surrounds his home here at Malabar Farms in Carapo in East Trinidad. And he ensures that his swimming afternoons are enlivened by challenging one of his 6 children to a test of strength and endurance in the pool.
My daughter and I, we have a game. We set a price. Let us say $200 for the afternoon. And if I can catch her, I win 200. If she catches me, she wins 200.
With Richard, the elder of his 2 sons, the games in the pool are a little tougher.
We fight. And I am stronger than Richard.
With a wit as strong as his resolve, he says the winner of those fights varies. But he is more decisive when we ask him who has scored more victories in the pool.
I don't play to lose. Ask my wife.
His wife Margaret is just one of several persons who will attest to the fact that George Bovell does not play to lose. Another is Joe Hadid, former horse trainer and chairman of the Trinidad and Tobago Racing Authority, who is now Chief Executive Officer of Ceramics Trinidad Limited.
What George Bovell did was he had set very high standards. In everything that he did, he set high standards. And once you maintain those standards and he was satisfied with, he had a love for his horses, that his horses were well looked after, well taken care of, you had no problem.
George Bovell was for many years president of the Trinidad Turf Club, the sport's then governing body, and chairman of the Trinidad and Tobago Racing Authority. But it was while he owned one of the largest and most successful horse racing stables in the country that he became associated with Joe Hadid.
Well, when I started off training, a few hours after I started to train, we were very successful. And he met me at races one day and asked me if I would train some horses for him. And a lot of his friends advised me not to. They said he was a very difficult man to work with. They said he was a very serious taskmaster. But there was something about a man that I fell in love with as a person. And I worked for him, trained horses for him for a long time, up to the time he stopped owning horses. And he bred some very good horses. I had no problem with him whatsoever. We became very, very close friends. I understood him. I understood what he wanted out of racing. And I think I gave him a lot of that. One of the best Creoles I ever trained was owned and bred by him, a horse called Set Royal, that never stopped winning. I think he won 14 or 15 races. Mr. Bovell was always very appreciative. And when he came to see his horses, which he did very often on a morning, he did so to be satisfied his horses were well looked after. And once they were well looked after, he was happy. And he would even come out there on the soundtrack and talk to the boys. He talked to everybody in racing. When Mr. Bovell goes into the paddock, he talked to everybody, every groom, every vet, every trainer. He was that kind of man. Very down to earth.
In the Senate, George Bovell was also noted for being down to earth. He was something of a crusader for the rights of the small man, especially where the small farmer was concerned. His speeches would range from appeals for the removal of import duties for agricultural equipment to the need for equating agricultural wages with industrial wages, from calls for guaranteed prices for meat and copra to the wisdom of developing the 40,000-acre Nariva swamp with small agricultural projects. Among his own contributions to agricultural development was his rearing of large herds of the now almost extinct buffalipso, a locally developed dairy animal resulting from cross-breeding between cattle and the water buffalo.
Between Kokal and St. Andrew, we had 600 buffaloes. And Dr. Bennett and myself, we got together and we started exporting. I exported buffaloes to about 14 countries, including Cuba. And Fidel invited me to Cuba for 2 weeks with my wife and son. We were extremely good with it. We saw what could be done with agriculture.
Although it is as a senator, a prominent farmer and landowner, and as a significant racehorse owner, that the name George Bovell became renowned in Trinidad and Tobago in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, it is as a grandfather in the early part of the 21st century that he would have one of his proudest moments. This was when his grandson, George Bovell III, won the bronze medal at the 2004 Olympics in Athens, Greece, to become Trinidad and Tobago's first Olympic medalist in swimming. And how did he feel when he saw the grandson bearing his own name, mounting that Olympic platform to receive his bronze medal?
Tremendous excitement, because he worked hard, From the time he was a youngster, from the time he was about 12, 14, he was swimming.
The fact is, the young Bovell's father, George Bovell II, was also a champion collegiate swimmer, and his younger son, Nicholas, a multiple national record holder, also qualified for the Athens Olympics in 2004, but was floored by injury. The most senior George Bovell does not attribute the swimming successes of his son and grandsons to any hereditary trait. Rather, he says, their achievements are the result of work and more work toward the particular goal. And it is this work ethic that propelled him to the position he enjoyed for many years as one of the most successful racehorse owners in the country. And it is in reflecting on those heady, hectic days that he says he now feels hampered.
When I want to get up and go in my car and go in the paddock, I can't do that. If I want to get up and walk across, I can't do it. I have to get up carefully, take the stick and hobble across, But other than that.
Asked about the most memorable event in his horse racing career that could perhaps symbolize his contribution to the sport of kings, Mr. Bovell says it was his decision to import from Canada a thoroughbred called Bandsman.
My contribution to racing was to bring Bandsman to Trinidad. He was a Southern Northern dancer. And his bloodline is very strong and very, very good.
Bandsman went on to sire a long line of champion horses in both Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados, the place that George Bovell considered his second home. For it was in Barbados that he and all of his children obtained their secondary education. And it was in Barbados too that he developed a love for cricket, the only other sport in which he actively participated. He recalls rubbing shoulders at competitive college cricket level in Barbados with cricket legends like Sir Frank Worrell and Clyde Walcott. In fact, so confident was George Bovell in the reliability of things Barbadian that at one stage of his life as a racehorse owner, he asked Challinor Jones, one of his major championship jockeys, and Joe Hadid, his trainer, to try and get him a groom from Barbados. Jones and Hadid were successful in contacting an elderly Barbadian gentleman who was flown in from Barbados and immediately taken by Mr. Bovell and provided with living quarters at his home here at Malabar Farms.
George, he was very comfortable, and we went home, and I got a call in the middle of the night from the groom saying to come and fetch him, you want to get out of there. So I picked Charlie up and we went up to Rima in Malabar to find the groom standing in the yard outside the room, and I said, what happened? He said, man, I lying down there sleeping, and when I look, I see a big snake in the room with me. And as you know, Harold, Barbadians don't like snakes. They don't know anything about snakes. So I said, what you did? He said, I called Mr. Bovell, and he told me, don't worry about it. When the sun come up, it will leave. So he said, Charlie, get me out of here. He said, I can't sleep in a room with a snake. Mr. Bovell wanted me to sleep with the snake. Told me to worry with the snake. He come here to sleep every night, but every morning he'll leave. He said, I didn't. So we had to take him to Rima and let him spend the night, and then he left for back to Barbados the following morning. And that was George Bovell, you know. He loved animals, and they were all his pets, you know.
In these well-tended picture postcard surroundings that have been featured in a number of newspapers and magazines, George Bovell continues to enjoy the rich diversity of flora and fauna that thrive in pristine environments like this, content in the fact that his health and well-being could be a prime beneficiary of it all.